إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Jazakallah khair for joining in today. So inshallah today we have Sheikh Dr. Suhaib Hasan from England, and as we've advertised this session for today, it's going to be a very enthralling session inshallah, and what we are going to be discussing would be requiring a lot of your attention and a lot of your focus, guys. So what we are expecting today is that please first of all share the feeds with everyone, because hopefully inshallah this session is going to be clarifying a lot of misconceptions around hadith, the different terminologies. How do we define hadith? How do we understand the term sunnah? Are they the same? Are they different, etc.? So, inshallah, share the feeds, and I will be requesting the Sheikh to start in, inshallah, 30 seconds. We'll start the session, inshallah. So, in the meanwhile, we have the sessions live, inshallah, on the LiveDeen link, as well as the international, the Islamic Youth Club International as well. Also, it has been pasted on Sheikh's Facebook page as well, which can take you to the YouTube page, inshallah, where it is being streamed live. So you have plenty of options to go and watch the session, inshallah, for today. And please share it with as many people as possible, especially those individuals who you think have any doubts with regards to the term hadith, with regards to the understanding of hadith, inshallah. It's going to be a fairly long session today, as you are aware, inshallah, 1 hour exactly. So we will be needing your attention and your focus today, inshallah. So I'm going to be now, inshallah, starting with the Sheikh, uh, with the first question, Sheikh. So Sheikh, Jazakallah khair for joining, and we welcome you to this first session, inshallah. May Allah reward you, inshallah, for joining, and may Allah elevate your rank, inshallah. So Sheikh, as I've mentioned obviously in my intro, now there are a lot of questions with regards to how do people understand hadith and the term sunnah, etc. So if I may ask you that, how would you define what is the status of hadith or sunnah in Islam?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi. First of all, we must realize that the main task of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to convey the message of Allah, the Divine, which is known as the Quran. It is not a job of a postman to deliver a letter, and the role of the has come to an end. No. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived 23 receiving after explain that message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيَّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. And we have brought down to you that zikr, that al-Quran, so that you can explain to people مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, what was revealed to them. So that was one of the main duties of the Prophet ﷺ, to explain this Quran, to keep on explaining this Quran. Is a bayan, and the Prophet's explanation is mubayyin, which explains the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that explanation is known as hadith. Hadith. And even this word hadith is used in the Quran. وَإِذْ أَصْنَبِيُّ إِلَى بَعْضِ أَزْوَاجِهِ حَدِيثًا. And the Prophet ﷺ secretly said to one of his wives. So this word hadith in the Quran for the sake of the Prophet ﷺ. And of course, these sayings of the Prophet ﷺ to explain the Quran, they are to give other commandments from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the consensus of the jurists of Islam that the primary sources of Sharia, they are two, Al-Quran and Sunnah. And then comes the secondary two sources, which is Al-Ijma' consensus, Al-Qiyas analogy. So Quran and Sunnah are, in other words, Hadith, they are the primaries of this Sharia. So as long as we want to understand Sharia, we want to implement Sharia, then it means that we can't do it without the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is a very, very simple type of understanding. The Quran is going to give you commandment, for example, aqimu wa atu zakah, establish the prayer and give zakat. And then how many times establish, how we are going to, all these things are explained in the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. In the very same way, yes, you have to give charities, zakat, how much money give zakat in it. And in the very same way, the zakat of the cattle, products of the earth, all things are only explained by our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this is why when we come to speak about the status of Al-Hadith, we would, it comes along with Al-Quran, though it comes just after Al-Quran. Why? Because Quran is zikr which has been revealed, is the explanation of that Al-Quran. And even the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, before leaving this life, he said very, very, فيكم شيئين لن تضلوا ما تمسكتم بهما كتاب الله وسنتي. I am leaving you two things, not going to go astray as long as you stick to them, as long as you abide by the book of Allah and my Sunnah. So if these are the two sources, with this order, that the book of Allah first, and then comes the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Later we are going to speak about these two terms, Sunnah and Hadith. But the main thing is that Hadith or Sunnah is the second source of this Sharia, and can't under the whole concept of Al-Islam, the whole concept of Sharia. There were people during the early times. We read in the biography of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, someone said to him, Da'una min hadhi al-ahadith, Da'una min hadhi al-ahadith. Leave all these hadiths and just speak about Al-Quran. So what Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, he said, Lawla lama fahim Quran. If the Sunnah was not there, that nobody among us was able to understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So such type of things were said in the past as well. And there are time who would keep us, but it got water at all. Why? Because if you don't take the Sunnah or Hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you can't understand the book of Allah. Then everybody would be free to explain Al-Quran whatever way he wants to interpret it. It is going to a wide person's whims and desires be accommodated in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at all, and it was not accepted throughout. So this is what we can say about the status of yes.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Sheikh, your voice is slightly lagging. Yani, is there any other device which is connected? If you can switch off, like for example, iPad or any other device which is there, because your voice is slightly lagging.
Is it
Uh,
still on?
I'm not. I'm not sure. If
Hello?
it's off, it's fine. Yeah, it's slightly lagging. Okay, so inshallah, Sheikh, hopefully the viewers, you are able to, as usual, post your questions and comment, and inshallah, we'll be coming to the questions towards the latter part of the show, inshallah. And as we move along, because like I said, this is the topic which requires a bit of concentration and attention. So we would be requiring all of you to, inshallah, have your focus towards the show. And as you are utilizing your devices, then inshallah, try to have your focus again to what the Sheikh is going to be saying, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. So Sheikh, now the second question is emanating from the first one, which is the...
If I do it without it...
Yeah, Sheikh, it's fine. We can hear you, inshallah.
Yes, keep on.
Yeah. So Sheikh, how would you differentiate, or if you would differentiate both the terms? Yani, a lot of people we have seen now, there's a new narrative now, which says that Sunnah and Hadith are two different things. And they give one definition to Sunnah and they ascribe a second definition to Hadith. So how would you explain this?
To pick it.
Sheikh, nowadays the people try to differentiate between both Sunnah and Hadith, and they give different terminologies and they try to make people understand that both of these are two different things. Yeah. So from a Sharia perspective, how would you explain Sunnah and Hadith? Are they synonymous? Are they different? How do we understand them?
Speaking about Hadith, now let me explain. Is there any difference between Hadith and Sunnah? As far as the Muslim jurists and Muslim muhaddithin, they are concerned, they say that Hadith and Sunnah, they are synonyms. Attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whether it is the Prophet, the actions of the Prophet, the approval of the Prophet, that is Hadith. And also that is Sunnah as well. There might be a slight variation here, difference of statement. That in Hadith we have to add a thing. Has been attributed to the Prophet, whether it is saying or approvals or instincts about his own character, about his sifat, either his sifat of his own character or about his character. For example, Allah Ta'ala anha said, Ma Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bayna shay'ain illa ikhtara aysarahum. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given any things, he was going to give preference to the most easiest one among them. So that is among the characters of Islam, which is also attributed to the term al-hadith. And as far as Sunnah is concerned, then we have to say the saying of the Prophet, the actions of, and anything which has been done in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the approval for that action, this is called taqreer or approval. They all included in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can see that all the practices in Islam later they are declared or they are known to be the Sunnah of the Prophet. And this word Sunnah is used in Hadith literature without making any difference with Hadith. It has been established that Sunnah is Hadith. Hadith is Sunnah. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnatul khulafai al-rashidin al-mahdiyyin min ba'di. Take hold, keep hold of my Sunnah, and who are going to come after me, and they are upright khulafa. And in the same way, For example, on Eid al-Adha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ma rahi, all these, what are they? What answer of the Prophet? Sunnata abikum alayhi salam. That is the sunnah of Father Ibrahim. So that is a practice which was seen by the companions, and Prophet declared it as sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he also said, Man sanna fil Islam sunnatan falahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha. Any person who a good practice in Islam, and he would have the reward of that that practice and the reward of all those people who are going to practice the very same sunnah. So if a person establishes a bad act, then he would have the punishment of that or the sin of that bad act and the sin of all those people who are going to practice it later. In the very same Sahaba ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in, any practice of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. For example, once Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas led Salat Janaza. He, when he was leading Salatul Janaza, he said Surah Al-Fatiha loudly. Later someone asked him, why did you do that? What was the answer? لِتَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ, that you people should know that this is Sunnah. So this word here in this context as well. So we in the early generation of Islam, there was no difference between the term hadith and the terms. Sometimes hadithin like Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, who died in 198, he was asked about all these three Imams, Imam Awza'i and Ibn Uyayna, what is their status? So his answer, we can say that they used to have some difference of opinion about, or difference of statement about Hadith and Sunnah, when he said that Imam in Sunnah and Imam Sufyan ibn Uyayna is Imam in Hadith. Imam Malik, he is Imam in both Sunnah and Hadith. So that was found among them muhaddithin. But as far as the source, as I said earlier, the source of Sharia is concerned, there was no difference between the two. And the main thing is, in Sunnah, what we have, either the command to do it, or from the Prophet not to do. Here, something very interesting is the verse number 13 of Surah An-Nisa. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ. Three things are mentioned here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you brought al-kitab, the wisdom. And the third thing, وَعَلَّمَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ, and he taught you what you know. So in explanation to this ayah, is known to everyone. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ, that position of al-hikmah is wisdom, anything which is wise or which is a. In Al-Quran, just see in Surah Al-Isra, starting from this verse, وَقَضَى. Later on, so many pieces of are given. Do this, don't do this. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. And then وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ إِذَا كِلْتُمْ وَزِنُوا بِالْقِسْطَاسِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. All these commandments are a prohibition are given the end, what ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. These are the things of hikmah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to you. So that is the same context of Al-Quran. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared all these commandments, whether to do something as al-hikmah. We can understand that the word hikmah, it includes these type of do something or to keep. So this hikmah is placed in Al-Quran in various ayat. In the story of Sayyidina Usman, al-hikmah. So Sayyidina Usman and Sayyidina Luqman and this hikmah which was given to him. So we can say very safely that all such commandments which are given by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, apart from Al-Quran, which are asking the believer from something. So this is why Imam Shafi'i, he said that al-hikmah is hadith, al-hikmah is sunnah, and all such type of examples. And the third thing which is mentioned in this ayah, وَعَلَّمَكَ لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ, and he taught you what you. It covers all the news of al-ghaib. It covers all other types of knowledge which is given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is included in hadith. So if you take sunnah in this way, that it is commandments either to do something or to keep away from something, then the third thing, وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ, the other narrations of al-hadith. So as long as this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, and we are asked, what we are asked, for what has been brought down to you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if that was the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it means it covers Quran, it covers all other commandments which are given by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it covers all the ahadith of sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if someone comes, he says no, we have to which we see in line with Al-Quran, or which are not added to Al-Quran, we are not going to take anything in addition. That would go against the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, when he says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَنَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatever Rasul has given to it, and whatever he says stop it, you have to stop from it. And يَحْذَرِ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبُهُمْ عَذَابٌ, the ayah of Surah An-Nur. Against the commandments of Allah, commandments of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they must be afraid of two types of punishment. Either they are to be placed in a trial, or a very severe punishment touches them. So that what we are commanded, whatever to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in the form of that revelation which is known as Al-Quran, or the other revelation which is still a revelation but is known as hidden revelation, and that is the sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Jazakallah khair. Sheikh, sorry, can I just interrupt? We can't see your face, Sheikh, for quite some time. I think your camera angle has changed. So if you can please check your camera angle. Yeah, okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, Sheikh, we can make a start now. I think, Sheikh, what we'll do is we'll start with the discussion on, again, explanation of Sunnah and Hadith in a kind of a summarized way, obviously without going into a lot of detail. So let's, inshallah, catch up from there, and then we'll roll the discussion from there onwards, inshallah.
What we said earlier, that the Prophet ﷺ has said very clearly that I am going to leave among you two things, Kitabullah and Sunnati. So you are not going to go astray as long as you commit to them. So this sunnah, that is the wasiyah, the legacy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With his own words, he said that this is my sunnah. So it means that we have, as sources of Sharia, we got only two things with us. That is the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is no way for any person to say no. We are not going to accept what we want. And this is a very, very clear hadith of Miqdam ibn Madi Karib, where the Prophet ﷺ said that I'm not going to read the whole hadith. يوشك أن يقعد الرجل على أريكته يحدث بحديثه فيقول بيني وبينكم كتاب الله. That hadith which says that a time would come, a man may be sitting on his cushion and he would say that between us and you only one thing is common, and that is the book of Allah. Whatever halal is there, we will accept it. Whatever haram is there, we will accept it. The Prophet said, no. Ala innama harrama Rasulullahi mislama harram Allah. The Prophet of Allah has declared so many things haram, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared so many things haram as well. And in another narrative of the very same hadith, he said, Ala inni utitu al-Quran wa mislahu ma'ahu. I have been given Quran and something similar to that. My question is that if you believe in the authentic hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as collected by various muhaddiseen, top of them is Bukhari and Muslim and Tirmidhi and Nasai and Ibn Majah and Abu Dawud. If you accept those books of ahadith, how you are going to take what you like and to reject what you don't like? That is not a criterion at all. Either you have to take all the authentic ahadith or leave them all, and then it is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what is going to happen to you. But as long as you accept the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then don't pick and choose. Now,
Naam, Sheikh. Sheikh, can we say that the Quran in the hadith in some cases supersedes the Quran? Is it a correct statement to make?
What we have to say that the very same order which was given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have revealed this Quran to you لِتُبَيَّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, so you can explain to them what has been revealed. So it is very clear here that Quran comes first and then the explanation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes after. When they are going to be mentioned, they are going to be mentioned just like they are mentioned in the book of Allah. وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا رَسُولَهُ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولِ. They are coming like this, Allah and Rasul. Allah and Rasul. In the very same way, we have to mention them in the very same order as well, that Al-Quran and then Al-Hadith. So, Hadith is an explanation of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no question to say that Hadith supersedes Al-Quran. No.
Okay. And coming from there, some of the people make a differentiation between, first of all, let's describe a little bit about the differences between the Ahad Hadith and the Mutawatir. You know, how do you make the differentiation? And then we'll ask the next question, inshallah.
This classification of Ahad and Mutawatir, it comes later, because this only tells us that how a hadith reached us. That is the only difference. As long as the hadith itself is concerned, as long as it is authentic hadith, the narratives are authentic, then it is acceptable. How it reached us, it may have reached us by way of Mutawatir, means many people have narrated it, and it might have reached us by a lesser number of people, maybe a single person, maybe two persons, maybe three persons. If they are around just one or two person or three person, then it is labeled as ahad, ahadith ahad. So ahadith, that is the major portion. The major portion of the hadith literature is ahadith ahad, and ahadith ahad, by them we understand the whole Sharia itself. The Prophet ﷺ himself, when he used to send his messengers to different rulers and different states to tell them to accept Islam. So how many people used to go to them? A single person is coming to the ruler of Egypt, to the ruler of Syria, and saying to them,
Yeah.
that is the message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, aslim taslam, enter into Islam and you will be safe and sound. So it means that even a single person is capable to convey the message of Islam. So in the very same way, if this hadith comes to us in a single way, but this single way is trustworthy way, it is a very authentic way, then it is acceptable. It is totally acceptable. Who says that a single opinion or a single narrative is not acceptable? Even in the Quran, when we say that in some of the crimes there is a punishment, for that punishment sometimes two witnesses are required, and in the most case, in the case of adultery, a zina, then 4 persons are required, and they are still ahad. So if you can take the life of a person in the case of a murder, for example, or in the case of the punishment of zina, if you can carry out such a great action because of the report of 2 persons or 4 persons, then there is no problem to accept the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is coming from ahad sources.
Yeah, but Sheikh, people say that you cannot accept, for example, ahadith in the matters of Aqidah, and they make a differentiation between acceptance of ahadith in the matters of Aqidah and other kind of actions. So, can you elaborate on this kind of misnomer or misconception, please?
The very same example which I have given to you, that when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sending one messenger, and that messenger is conveying the message of the Prophet to a ruler, asking him to change his aqidah. He said, Aslim taslam, enter into Islam. He is asking the change of aqidah, to say La ilaha illallah. So the first thing comes aqidah, and then comes the other thing. Once he accepts the aqidah, then he is going to accept all the commandments of al-Islam, like prayer and fasting and zakat and hajj. So as long as aqidah is conveyed here through a single person, then there is no argument left with any person who says, oh, there should be a difference between ahadith based for aqidah and ahadith based upon the actions. No, there is no such distinction right from the beginning of Islam. That distinction is only created nowadays just to run away from all the responsibilities which we got by accepting Islam. There was no such distinction in the beginning.
Yeah, so Sheikh, if we let's say, we obviously we cannot go into a lot of history and debate and discussion as to exactly how these kind of concepts crept along the way in the history of Islam. But why do you think that? Why do people make such differentiations? What is their objective?
We can say that this struggle between the forces of Rahman and forces of Shaitan, they are right from the beginning, and that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created this world, He created the mankind just to give them this trial. That is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you would be created in a trial. Haqq is going to be explained to you through our prophets, and then there is Satan, who is going to take you away from that haqq. He would try his best not to leave you on the right path. He has made this challenge right from the beginning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if you give me respite, I will show you how I am going to mislead that man who was chosen by you to become Al-Khalifa. So this trial is happening in each and every times. That is why even in our times, those people who want a version of Islam which is very agreeable to their own habits, to their own norms, to their own thoughts, these people, they always try to give an interpretation of Islam the way they have understood it, not the way Quran wants let them to understand this Islam, or Hadith wants them to understand Islam. They want it according to their own whims and desire. And then, of course, there are non-Muslims, those who are known as Orientalists, mustashriqeen, their main job was to create such type of criticism which can weaken the basis of Islam. And you will see that all those people who are now denying the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, they are not saying anything new at all. All what has been said by these Orientalists in the past, they are just repeating it, whether it was in Egypt in the form of those people who started this movement of Inkar Sunnah or denial of Sunnah, like Abu Rayya, who wrote about Sayyidina Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala an, like Imam Ahmad Amin, who wrote in his book Fajrul Islam and Duhal Islam, things of this nature. Or when you come to subcontinent and you see the writing of Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan, and after that you will have the names like Abdullah Chakralvi, and then Aslam Jirajpuri, and then Ghulam Ahmad Parvez, and not only Ghulam Ahmad Parvez, the founder of Qadianiya movement. This person also, he took the same route which has been taken by the Orientalists. Weaken the authority of Hadith, weaken the source of Hadith, which is Isnad. Once you say that no, this source is not acceptable, the whole edifice of Islam is going to drop, and then you are free to explain the way you like.
Okay, Sheikh, that is alhamdulillah, that is, I hope that is very much understood, inshallah. But Sheikh, now the question comes that is there any evidence of written hadith literature in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or immediately after his passing away?
We must understand that Quran and Hadith both are preserved in the same way, through these two mediums. The first medium is verbal, and the second is in writing. Quran is preserved in that way. It was preserved verbally, and there are thousands and thousands of people who memorize the Quran, and then it has been written, as the Prophet ﷺ used to say, just write whatever, whenever the revelation came to him. In the very same way, the Prophet ﷺ, for example, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, sometime you are in a good mood, sometime you are in anger. Should I write everything, whatever you say?" He said, "Write whatever I say, that it, whether whatever mood you got of mine, but write it, because I don't say anything except what is haqq or what is true." So he gave him this commandment, write whatever comes from my mouth. And in the very same way, we have seen how in the conquest of Makkah, when he delivered his speech, a man from Yemen whose name was Abu Shah, he stood up and he said that I want this piece of admonition be written for me. And the Prophet said, Uktubu li Abi Shah, write for this person, write for this. And then the famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Naddar Allahu imra'an sami'a maqalati fawa'aha summa addaha kama sami'aha." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refreshed the face of that person who listens to my saying, and then he preserves it, and then he conveys it as he has heard it. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is encouraging the people to preserve verbally, and he is also saying to them to write it. So Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As started writing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and his collection, he's a Sahabi now, in the first generation, his collection is known as As-Sahifa As-Sadiqa. As-Sahifa As-Sadiqa. And in the same way, Sayyidina Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala, who was preserving verbally, because as he himself said that I did not used to write, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As used to write, I did not used to write. So he preserved it in his mind, and then his pupil Hammad ibn Munabbih used to write it, and this Sahifa is known as a Sahifa as-Sahiha, and in that Sahifa 138 ahadith are there, 138 ahadith. So you can say Sayyidina Abu Huraira, who died in 59th of Hijrah, that is the middle of the first century, and his pupil Hammad ibn Munabbih, who died in 131, So that is the period in which hadith has been written. So there are so many other Sahaba who got fractions of hadith written with them, and they got their own Suhaib. What happened that was the first century of Hijrah. In the second century of Hijrah, then we see the so many other people who started writing the hadith. And the first collection, the major collection, is the collection of Imam Malik, Muatta. Imam Malik died in 179. So his collections of Muatta, that is with hadith and the sayings of Sahaba and his own opinions all mixed up. That was the attitude at that time. And he was not the only person, but there were so many other persons who came as well, and he wrote ahadith which are known as Masanid, yani the Musnad of one Sahabi, the ahadith of one Sahabi collected together. So to say that ahadiths were not collected right from the beginning, that is wrong. They have been collected right from the beginning. And this Sahifa of Hammad ibn Munabbih, with the effort of Dr. Hamidullah, who used to be in Paris, and Allah rahmatullahi alayh, that person, he discovered the manuscript of this Sahifa Hammad ibn Munabbih, and then he published it. So this Sahifa, with this entirety, all 138 ahadith are accommodated in Musnad Imam Ahmad. So Musnad Imam Ahmad died in 241 of Hijrah. He is in the middle of the 3rd century. This is a common saying of all these people, oh, ahadiths were just recorded in the 3rd century. No, in the 3rd century, if Imam Ahmad was writing or collecting his Musnad, he has taken ahadith of the previous people who were before him. And the oldest among them is the manuscript of Hammad ibn Munabbih, which was accommodated there. And then he has taken other Sahaif as well. Then he has taken verbal ahadith as well. So the Prophet ﷺ was very keen that this hadith should be recorded, and then should be preserved verbally and in writing. And this is how it reached to the later muhaddithin. And alhamdulillah, with their efforts of Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, and other, it has been preserved in those collections of hadith which are with us. And this is how we got access to the ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
No. Sheikh, also there is another kind of controversy which is normally brought in, that there are certain ahadith which are contradictory. So how do we answer this question?
People try to find out contradiction in the Quran itself. They say that on the Day of Judgment, one ayah says, وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. Stop them, they are going to be questioned. And the other surah Rahman, فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنبِهِ إِنسٌ وَلَا جَانٌ. That day no ins, no human being, no jinn is going to be questioned. They say, oh, there are contradictions in the Quran. So this is not a new thing. They try to find it in the Quran. What was the answer of, because I have mentioned this example, that on the Day of Judgment there are different times, different occasions, different stands of the people. At one stage when they are just come out of their graves, there would be no questioning at that time. Later, at a certain time, then questioning would start. So they are going to be questioned. So a person of knowledge could explain to them that these two ayat are speaking about two different times. In the very same way, the famous hadith which they quote always, the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala an, that the Prophet said, "La taktubu anni ghayra al-Quran, wa man kataba anni ghayra al-Quran famhuhu." Don't write anything from me except al-Quran. And if you have written something except of al-Quran, then erase it. Now this hadith, though there is a discussion about this hadith itself, but anyhow, even when we say that, when you accept this hadith, we could say that it is speaking about the early days of revelation, when the Prophet ﷺ said that with the revelation don't write al hadith. So it can't, both things should not be mixed together. and then it will become different for the people to differentiate between them. But later, when it was possible for the people to separate hadith with the Quran, then it was quite logical that Quran is preserved and hadith is preserved as well. So when the Prophet is saying to the people, "Uktubu li Abisha," write for Abisha, and then he has written a writing about as-sadaqat, about all the nisab of sadaqah. He has written it, though the Prophet ﷺ died before sending it to his governors. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr took that writing and then he sent it to all his governors. Then Sayyidina Umar did the same thing. Sayyidina Ali was asked these questions, have you got something apart from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, Yani, is there anything with you? Is there anything with you apart from the book of Allah? He said, nothing. But book of Allah are understanding a person is given of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or this sahifa which is with me. And in that sahifa he showed some of the commandments of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and among them it was written the blood money, how the blood money is to be fixed if a person is killed by whether a man or a woman. And then it was also written there, la yarisul muslimul kafir wa la yarisul kafirul muslim. A Muslim is not going to inherit a non-Muslim, and a non-Muslim is not going to inherit a Muslim. So he has shown that this type of sahifa was with him. So it means that in the beginning, yes, it was a stand, but later that stand has been changed, and we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ was written and it was preserved as well.
Sheikh, is there any concept of nasikh and mansukh also in hadith?
Yes, of course. It is this concept is it is just like a gradual process. In the deen itself, there was a gradual process. For example, the Prophet said that kuntu nahaytukum an ziyarat al-qubur. I have forbidden you to visit the graves, but now I allow you to visit the graves because they remind you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they remind you your deaths, and it reminds you about your akhirah. So there is, yes, if there is a clear indication, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that I said so and now I want to change it, or the reporters, they know that this hadith was revealed or was given in the beginning and that was at a later time. If this type of time is known, then of course it is acceptable. But if this type of timing is not given, then you have to apply first all other ways to reconcile two contradictory hadiths, to give preference to one hadith to on the other hadith on the basis of the reporters, on the basis of so many other factors which we read in the books of Usul al-Hadith. Yes, this concept is there, and but it is regulated with so many regulations.
Sheikh, now a slightly, you can say, difficult question in terms of how people actually, especially the you can say the rationalists, how they kind of try to make people understand hadith, which is that people say that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't want people to be narrating hadith. Although you've answered this question from when you were answering the aspect of the Quran, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised also obviously for the narration of the hadith, when he was making it being written for a Sahabi. But they are adamant and they keep on saying that Sunnah is something else and hadith is something else. And then they say that the most important concept for understand is Sunnat Ibrahimi, and the prophetic Sunnah which comes from there. And then they say that is something which is from the general tradition of the Muslims or the kind of the prophets at large, and they make a distinction. So how can it you can say, the latest trend in this?
يعني first of all, ومن يشاقق الرسول من بعد ما تبين له الهدى ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين نوليه ما تولى ونصليه جهنم وساءت مصيرا. This ayah of Surah An-Nisa is very clear that the person who got this disputing attitude, who disputes with the Prophet ﷺ after the guidance has been revealed to him, and he follows a way other than the way of the believers, Nuwallihi ma tawalla, we are going to turn him the way he is turning, and we are going to admit him in Jahannam, and that is a very bad end. So the understanding of the first generation of Islam, that is very important, because they are the first recipient of the revelation. What we know that this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is which was given to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it refers sometime, and it got reference of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Millata Ibrahim Hanifa wa ma kana min al-mushrikeen. But you will discover wherever this Millata Ibrahim Hanifa is mentioned, this word Hanifa wa ma kana min al-mushrikeen, it shows very clearly that it is only indicating that follow you people of Arabia who were the first recipient of Islam, follow this way of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was not a mushrik, he was not an idolatrist, he was not a polytheist, he was muwahhid. Follow that way. So it shows this millah of Ibrahim. But as far as the Sharia is concerned, we know that each prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been given his own Sharia. And this is why the Sharia of the followers of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, means Banu Israel, their Sharia was different, and the Sharia of later the prophets who came, there was a difference of Sharia between the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our Sharia got a difference from the Sharia of the past as well. So the main thing is, whatever is accepted by our Sharia from the Sharia of Tawrat, or Sharia of Injil, or Sharia of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, we are going to accept it. Otherwise, we are not going to accept it at all. When the Prophet said about the sacrificial animals, Sunnata Abikum Ibrahim, so Prophet is telling us that this is the Sunnah of Ibrahim, and this is Hadith Ahad. Don't you accept this Hadith Ahad? You accept it. Why? Because it goes in line with your own understanding. And a very good example of that is that do they accept all the Sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam? Who was Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam? Not his grandson, Ibrahim, then his son Ishaq, then his Yaqub, then Yusuf alayhi salam, grandson. So it means that Yusuf alayhi salam was following the Sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So when he was in Egypt, and he wanted to retain his brother Binyamin with him, he was not able to do it. مَا كَانَ لِيَأْخُذَ أَخَاهُ فِي دِينِ الْمَلِكِ. If he has to follow the constitution or the laws of the country, he was not able to do that. But he could do it. He could do it by the way of their own Sharia. So this is why he asked them. He asked his brethren, if somebody has stolen, what is the punishment of the thief in you? And they said, the person who steals, he is going to be beheaded. He is going to be taken as a captive. So in this way, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was able to retain his brother Binyamin. So is it not the law which was coming from Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam? Why don't they accept it now? Let any one of them tell me that this is one of the Sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Why don't they accept it? They would say, no, we are not going to accept it. Why? Because in our Sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "As-sariqu was-sariqatu faqta'u aydiyahuma," because the law is given now. This is what you are saying. Don't look at the Sharia of the past. No, whatever is established and confirmed in our Sharia, that is acceptable. Which is not confirmed, it is not acceptable at all. So to keep on saying that we follow the Sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, It is just a way to leave all the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay.
And that
No.
was not the attitude of those Muslims who follow our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So,
They fall under this ayah 113 of Surah An-Nisa. The person who got shiqaq, disputes with the Prophet, and yattabi ghayra sabil al-mu'minin, and he follows the way other than the way of al-mu'minin. But this is the first generation of Islam. That person, his end is not secured at all. He may end up into Jahannam. No.
Sheikh, inshallah, the last two questions. Sheikh, one question which normally people have is that, again, I'm just slightly digressing, that people want to read various tafsir, and then obviously there's so much availability of different types of tafsir. Now, there is a confusion, there's a general confusion, where there is one strand where the tafsir are done through the language of the linguists, like, for example, the tafsir of Farahi, and again, the disciples after him. And then there is another strand where there are Athri tafsir, which actually take their cue from, obviously, the Sunnah and the Seerah and the various Hadiths. So, Sheikh, what's, in your opinion, what is the best way to understand the tafsir of the Quran? Obviously, there's a lot of ulumul Quran detail out there, but again, for a layman, because this is a show for the layman. So, what is your advice to them?
You see, the best thing in the tafsir of Al-Quran, because there are so many booklets, rasail, which has been written in fi usul al-tafsir, in the principles of tafsir. So among the principle of tafsir, which is something which is very obvious, that is tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. That Quran itself is explaining the ayah of Al-Quran. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. That is the tafsir of صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So you take this ayah of Surah Al-Fatiha, and then in the ayah of Surah Al-An'am, you explain it, that who are the mun'am alayhim, who are the people. They are Siddiqeen and Shuhada and Salihin, Anbiya, Siddiqeen, Shuhada and Salihin. So in this way, first thing is translation or explanation of Quran from Quran. That is the first thing. And the second thing is the one who received the revelation, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did he explain it? So take his explanation, which is coming through hadith. And then third comes Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajmain, like Sayyidina Ibn Abbas. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a special dua for him, Allahumma faqqihu fi ddin wa 'allimhu at-ta'wil. Allahumma faqqihu fi ddin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him a faqih, a person understanding the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So tafsir, which is coming from various Sahaba and their pupils who are known to be at-tabi'in. That is the main three principles of understanding the tafsir of Al-Quran. And of course, whatever comes after that, that is to be judged by the very same criteria here, whether it is in line with the meaning of Al-Quran, with the explanation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the explanation of Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajmain or not. So those tafasir which are written on these lines, they should be now a priority for a person who starts reading Al-Quran.
Sheikh, can you give any examples?
For example, the topmost is Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Tafsir Ibn Kathir, because Tafsir Ibn Kathir, he is writing under each ayah any explanation which has come from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from Sahaba and from Tabi'in. That is, I would say, for a layman, he should start from the Tafsir Ibn Kathir, and nothing is similar to him.
Okay, Sheikh. And Sheikh, if someone really wants to, let's say, understand the science of Hadith and the Hadith terminologies and wants to kind of go deep into it, then what is your advice? How should he go about doing that?
Usul al-Hadith itself, I would say that is all the different knowledges which is related to Quran and Sunnah. You must have a good understanding of Arabic language, because in Arabic language, once you got a good knowledge of Arabic language, then you are more capable to understand all these terminologies of Hadith. So acquire that knowledge of Arabic language, and after that you can start with this knowledge of Science of Hadith. And there are, of course, there are many books which are written, starting from Muqaddimah ibn Salah. But Muqaddimah ibn Salah, it is very difficult book. This is why Ibn Kathir, in his book Al-Ba'is al-Hasis, has simplified Muqaddimah ibn Salah, simplified it. And then when it comes to its explanations by Ahmad Shakir of Egypt, it becomes more simplistic for a layman. And in our times, there are some other scholars of Islam who has written in a very simple language all these terms of ahadith. Even myself, I got a booklet with the same title, Science of Hadith. That is now we got a second edition, which has just very recently come out, and in which there is a supplement added to it as well. That supplement did not appear in our first edition. So for those who are studying in English, I think this booklet would be very beneficial to them.
Inshallah. Okay, Sheikh. And Sheikh, finally, towards the end, as we are kind of coming to an end of the show, once again, apologies to the audience that we had to break the session and then we had to elongate by kind of 30 minutes. So apologies for that. But inshallah, we hope that you have benefited from what we have discussed. So Sheikh, the last question is that what is your suggestion to those individuals who keep on changing the hadith terminologies, and now instead of denying hadith, they are putting this thing in the minds of the laymen that the hadith terminologies can be changed, something which was amongst the consensus of the Muslims throughout the centuries of Islam. Now they are coming up with new terminologies. What is your advice to those individuals?
This is why when we say people wanted to make tahrif, it means to change the words of the Quran, the words of Hadith. They were not, of course, Quran is preserved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna nahnu nazzalna zikra wa inna lahu lahafizun. So they were never able to do it. So this is why now they come to do with Hadith. But even Hadith is preserved in such a way that we know which Hadiths are authentic, which are not authentic. So it is a very difficult task for a person to change it in words. So this is why they come to at-tahrif al-ma'nawi, which means change the meaning. This word does not mean this. Like this claimant of prophethood, when he changed the meaning of Khatamun Nabiyyin to make a way for himself. So in the very same way, if any person wants to take a new meaning of any terminology, that is the same practice of, we can say, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who claimed to be a prophet of this 20th century. So he has to think about his own future. He has to think that one day he has to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How he is going to face Allah when he is meeting him with after changing the sources of Islam, which is Quran and Sunnah. If he wanted to change the source of Al-Quran, change the source of Sharia, Al-Hadith or Al-Sunnah, that is something horrible which he is committing. I think he should think about it. Of course, people know that they have to die. Every person has to die. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. But after death, how he is going to answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So if we got this faith that he has to face Allah and he has to answer about all what he said, all what is uttered, all what he has written, then he may desist from doing such a thing. The best thing is to stick to this science, because this science of usul al-hadith, they say that it has been cooked and digested. There is no more room to add anything to it at all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon all of us. Jazakumullah
Ameen.
khairan.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Once again, may Allah reward you, inshallah. And again, once again, apologies to the viewers that we were not able to continue in the same session. So inshallah, we hope, please share the session. It's available on the different Facebook feeds. It's available on Sheikh's page as well. So please, whoever has any doubts about the authenticity of of hadith, the terminologies of hadith, how do we actually reconcile hadith, in layman's terms? Obviously, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of debate, and a lot of understanding which is required to be there. But inshallah, I hope that this session will, for some individuals, inshallah, it will help them to understand the status of hadith, the status of the sunnah, and inshallah, this will also help them to love Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through his words, and again through the actions and through the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.